Hey, Jen, good morning.
Good morning to you, Pam. The new information, the Keys now under a tropical storm warning, so you can expect conditions will begin to deteriorate within the next 12 hours or so. Already breezy this morning, and the breeze will start to pick up as the day goes on. We are here at one of the marinas in Key West where boats are tied down very, very well. They are hoping that this storm weakens enough to where these boats won't suffer quite as much damage. Their main concern, of course, being storm surge, as you can imagine. If we pan around, you can see a lot of the businesses already starting to board up, gas stations boarding up. As we came down into town, a lot of the gas stations already out of gas. And then if we pan around even more, you can see even a few of the boats already begun to be pulled out of the water. That will just continue throughout the day. Evacuations have begun, and they will continue throughout the day today. There are no shelters in the Keys because they think that they may not be able to withstand the winds that are expected. So what they're doing is they're busing people to FIU, and they really want people to get out. And so what's encouraging them to get out, they're telling them they can take their pets if they are properly caged, but that is the hugest challenge, getting the residents out of the Keys. Most of the time they just don't like to leave. The tourists have already been asked to leave, roughly 20,000 of them, and that could be the hugest impact felt is the economic impact. Roughly $3 million a day is what they're losing. On the way down, though, we did see a couple of people that packed up their stuff and they said they were going to head out of town. This is what they had to say.
Last time I stayed, and it was like 3 feet of water in my house, and I didn't want to take that chance this time.
It's too big and too close. Too close for comfort, you know?
So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some people are leaving, some are staying. A lot of the residents, though, are staying. On the way down, with just cars trickling out of here. No traffic whatsoever. They hope that that will pick up just a little bit today. They say don't plan on going to any hospitals. If the storm gets bad, they said that they are all closed. Schools, of course, are closed for the next couple of days. And so they are just really trying to get ready for the storm and hoping that it's not going to be a very strong one by the time it gets south of the Keys. We are live in Key West. Jennifer Gray today in South Florida.
Thank you.
Gray joins us live from Key West with a look now at the mindset in our southernmost city this morning. Hey, Jen, already starting to get breezy out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is breezy this morning, and we just expect the winds to pick up even more now that that tropical storm warning has been issued. We all know down in the Keys a huge problem. We're actually getting people to leave, and we are here at one of the marinas. Some people are actually deciding to ride the storm out in their boat. They have tied them up very well this morning, but as you can see, the rest of the city is trying to shut down. As far as shops are concerned, restaurants, a lot of them have already closed. Even gas stations boarded up this morning. A lot of folks even completely out of gas, but there are some people who actually are deciding to leave. On the drive down to Key West, evacuations were in full swing as people trickled north, and they said they weren't leaving anyone behind.
Bobo, Juliet, and Mason.
6 dogs and 2 cats, all in cages, heading for higher ground.
It's too big and too close. Too close for comfort, you know?
Oscar Perez says he's not taking chances either.
Last time I stayed, and it was like 3 feet of water in my house, and I didn't want to take that chance this time.
But city and county officials say it's the people who aren't leaving that they're worried about.
Just too close to say bunker down and we'll be okay.
Asking people to leave is one thing. Actually getting them to leave is another.
The house I grew up in has been here 150 years, is still standing.
Many people aren't leaving, and that has city and county officials discouraged. And asking tourists to leave twice in less than a month is also taking its toll.
Not from a personal injury perspective, it scares me from an economic perspective.
The Keys estimate they're losing $3 million a day as roughly 20,000 tourists flee the city and hope Hurricane Ike loses its punch before a possible brush with Key West. And those evacuations will continue throughout today, and the city and county officials are hoping that people decide to leave. They say this is a very different storm than Faye, and they think that if this takes a slightest jog to the north, this could have some serious problems down here in the Keys. Of course, folks on these boats that will be riding them out during the storm, their biggest concern is storm surge. So there is a lot of concern down here in the Keys, and hopefully more people will take those evacuations seriously and try to get out before the storm. We will have much more in just a little bit. In the meantime, we are live in Key West. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Gray for Today in South Florida.
Key West.
Good morning, Bob, and good morning to you. The breeze is starting to pick up. Now we're under that tropical storm warning. Just to give you an idea about the mindset of the folks in the Keys, we tell you a lot of times people don't leave, and this is proof. People have tied up their boats very, very well here down in the Keys, and they say this is where they're riding out the storm. We did talk to one guy who is riding out his storm on his boat. Now, roughly 20,000 tourists have left the city as of yesterday, and they're continuing those evacuations throughout today. But like I said, a lot of people say they're just not leaving. Evacuations are in full swing in Key West, but you would never know it. No traffic, no delays, but there are a few who say they're taking no chances.
Bobo, Juliet, and Mason.
This lady is taking her 6 dogs and 2 cats to seek higher ground.
It's too big and too close. Too close for comfort, you know?
But city officials say it's the people who aren't leaving that have them worried.
Just too close to say bunker down and we'll be okay.
Really don't have any place else to go, and this is my home.
Captain Craig's a fisherman. He's been here for 30 years.
I stay nervous.
He, like many in Key West, won't be leaving. He'll be riding out the storm on his boat. Asking people to leave is one thing. Actually getting them to leave is another.
The house I grew up in has been here 150 years. It's still standing.
Many people aren't leaving, and that has city and county officials discouraged. Asking tourists to leave twice in less than a month. First Tropical Storm Faye and now Hurricane Ike is also taking its toll.
Not from a personal injury perspective, it scares me from an economic perspective.
The Keys estimate they're losing $3 million a day as roughly 20,000 tourists flee the city and hope Hurricane Ike loses its punch before a possible brush with Key West. And we're back out here live. Of course, a lot of people that are going to ride out the storm on their boat, they say their biggest concern is not the wind, but it's the storm surge. They said during Wilma it was a close call, and they are hoping that Hurricane Ike won't pack that as powerful of a punch. Also, we did talk with city officials. They say that a lot of people aren't leaving because they're afraid that the bridges won't hold up during the storm and they won't have a way to get back to Key West. They wanted me to tell everyone that they assure you that the bridges will be fine. They are very strong, and so they have ordered that mandatory evacuation, and they say that this is a storm that you should definitely leave for. One little jog to the north could make all the difference with Hurricane Ike. That's the latest from Key West. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Gray for Today in South Florida.
Where Jennifer Gray is standing by.
Hey guys, that is right. We are live in Key West, and we're at one of the marinas. Just in the past couple of minutes, the winds have really started to pick up. We are probably feeling gusts of about 25 miles per hour or more. You can see from the palm leaves, things are starting to pick up, and it's only expected to deteriorate throughout the rest of the afternoon. Otherwise, though, the weather is beautiful in the Keys, and most people, frankly, just aren't leaving. They did call for that mandatory evacuation. You can see this marina where we are full of boats. A few people out in the distance out there are starting to tie their boats down, and that's sort of what we've been seeing throughout the morning hours. But really, most of the people have decided to stay. They did get most of the tourists out, which is really taking a punch with the economy. But as far as the residents, it just takes a lot to get them to leave. Evacuations continue in the Keys. Buses promising to help move residents to higher ground, an idea that may be wasting resources.
This morning I had 6 taken, so it's kind of slow.
The Keys have been through this many times before. Boarding up is a way of life, but evacuating is not. Getting people to leave the city is the biggest challenge.
I think pretty much people are just standing by, just waiting, hoping that the storm won't come this way.
Most residents may be staying, but the tourists aren't. Less than a month after they were forced out by Tropical Storm Faye, they are leaving again, costing the Key West economy $3 million a day.
The tourists are already evacuated, and it will continue. We will not stop that, but we're hoping that we may be able to call them back in a lot sooner than we expected.
City officials were hoping more residents would make it out of the city. They were also hoping more boats would make it out of the water, but as you can see, most just threw on another spring line to secure their boat, and now they're hoping for the best.
I really don't have any place else to go, and this is my home.
Captain Craig is riding the storm out on his boat. He's stocking up on Dramamine and hoping the water doesn't rise.
And that's our biggest concern is the storm surge. More so than the wind, I think. That storm surge, particularly with the boats.
That surge was enough to send a few people packing. Oscar Perez doesn't want to relive his nightmare during Wilma.
Last time I stayed, and it was like 3 feet of water in my house, and I didn't want to take that chance this time.
Whether residents tie down and ride the storm in Key West, or leave their homes and everything behind. They hope Hurricane Ike dodges Key West without leaving his mark. And back out here live as those guys tie down their ropes for the next couple of hours. They don't have too much time. I was checking out the radar just before the show, and those outer rain bands are making their way, and they should be here by this evening. Like I said, the winds are starting to really pick up as well. As far as the residents that decided to stay, city officials are a little worried because they said once tropical storm winds start to set in, they're not going to have access to emergency vehicles. Only less than half a dozen people caught those buses out of town, and so they're a little bit concerned about the residents, but they are optimistic and hoping that this storm stays to the south and hoping that it doesn't strengthen too much more. We'll have more from Key West later. In the meantime, I'm Jennifer Gray for NBC6.
All right, Jen, you better put another spring line.
Jennifer Gray joining us now live from Key West, where officials are still keeping a very close eye on the storm. They pretty much, Jen, want to make sure that everybody is safe and secure.
That's exactly right. And you know, if you didn't know that there was a storm about 300 miles away, you would say, man, this is a beautiful breezy day across the Keys. But signs like this tells you that there is a storm very close. And also this place, the Key West Treasure Chest, this sign right here, get lost, Ike, see you after the storm, folks. A very good indicator there is a storm on the way. As you look out here, though, you can see lots of boats still in the marina. They really encouraged people to get out of the city. They encouraged people to get their boats out of the water. But as you can see, not too many people did that. And now that the storm is only a couple hours away from feeling the first effects, people are doing what they can last minute to try to get ready. With only hours to spare before the effects of Hurricane Ike are felt in the Keys, final preparations are taking place until the very last minute.
Clearing the power line for the outage prevention, keeping the palm frond from hitting the line before the storm gets here so we don't lose the power.
They are doing what they can to keep the lights on in Key West for folks like these residents who refuse to leave.
It's not like I'm so relaxed, but I'm prepared and done everything that I can do to stay safe. And, you know, I didn't think it was bad enough that I needed to leave.
They feel lucky the storm is taking the southern route and hope the wind and rain will be bearable.
Looks like the storm surge isn't going to be so bad, so our boats are going to be okay, too.
So final tie downs and tree trimmings are finishing up, racing the clock before Hurricane Ike comes knocking. And no doubt about it, the breeze has really picked up. We're probably getting gusts about 30 miles per hour or more and only expected to get worse as time goes on. And like I said, not too many people left. They did try to get all the tourists out, but as far as the residents, most of the people that we talked to said, you know what, we may have closed our business down, but as far as leaving our homes, we're just not going to do it. We're going to stay here through this storm. We are live in Key West. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Gray for NBC6.
And Jen heads now to Key West, and Jennifer Gray with a look at that flooding. Jen?
Hey guys, we are at the southernmost point. This is what we talk about when we say storm surge. You can see incredible pictures of the southernmost point, the waves crashing over the seawall and just flooding right into the street. You can see going up about 20, 25 feet or more, and the storm surge, the entire street is completely flooded up to about 7 blocks or more. We're standing in about 2 feet of water right now, and the water continues to come in and will for the next couple of hours. This is why city officials tell people to stay indoors, because the water can rise very, very quickly. As you can see, all the way down the street to about 7 to 10 blocks, just water completely flooding the area. We do have a Keys resident. A few people are out and about. This is Diane Wood. Why are you out here so early?
I'm really bored, and I love to come out and take pictures of the storm. I got my little camera here. I'm trying to take some video too this year.
Yeah. And, why didn't you evacuate?
Oh, I never do. First of all, it's not a really, really bad one, but even if it was a really bad one, I would still stay here because I want to protect my house and my stuff if something happens to it.
All right, well, thanks for talking to us, and you stay safe. Try to stay dry. As you can see, the water continues to pour in, creating quite the current out here, and the waves continuing to crash on the southernmost point, and the storm surge will continue to rise over the next couple of hours until Ike gets a little bit more to the west. But as you can see, some incredible pictures down here in Key West. We are live in Key West. Jennifer Gray today in South Florida.
Wow. West with the incredible image. Hey, Jen, you okay?
That's right, guys. We are live in Key West at the southernmost point. Every couple of minutes, you get incredible crashes against that wall. Those waves are going up higher than the house right there. Once it starts to splash up, and then it's just spilling into the street. If you can pan over there, you can see as the water comes in, it just rushes over out into the streets, and we are getting about 2 feet of flooding right here at the southernmost point, and probably about 7 to 10 blocks up, the same story. I don't think the entire island is flooding, so don't be alarmed, because we just came from a couple of blocks away and there's no water whatsoever. But right here in the southernmost point, conditions definitely starting to take a dive for the worse. As you can see, those waves just continuing to crash over that wall. And as you can see, this man right here taking a look, he's been sitting in that tree all morning long, and he'll cheer whenever the waves come by. He's getting a closer look. Just one of the locals coming out here to see what all of the fuss is about. But yeah, the tides are running just a couple of feet above normal, and then when you have those waves crash against that wall like that, it just sends a splash that goes up 20, 30 feet in the air. And so that's what we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of hours. Rain hasn't really been a problem down here. We've gotten a couple of those squalls, and in the past 30 minutes, we've had probably about 2 of those cells come by, but they're moving so quickly it only lasts about a couple of minutes. And then the wind has been an issue as well. Not too bad. We do get a couple of gusts, but sustained winds aren't all of that bad. Actually, it seems to be a little bit less than it was just a few moments ago. But you can see the incredible pictures coming out of the southernmost point as those waves are just crashing against that wall. The surge is definitely pouring into the streets, as you can see, and then in the next couple of hours, probably later on in the day, hopefully this will start to subside just a little bit. But for now, we are live in Key West. I want to toss it over to my colleague, Jeff Burnside. He is in Key Largo. I hear you're getting a few storms up there, Jeff.
Yeah, it just smacked into us. We've had to take shelter.
Key West, and meteorologist Jennifer Gray, who has the very latest on Ike's impact on our southernmost city. Jennifer, any word on when it'll be okay for Key West evacuees to return? I would imagine not anytime soon.
We have been standing here all morning long, and where we're standing now in about a foot of water, this is about the level it's been all morning. What's causing it? Well, the storm surge. If you can see from our vantage point, the seas are very, very choppy, and during high tide earlier this morning, they were running above level. It was causing the waves to just crash over that seawall. The water has been rushing into the city, into the streets. About 4 or 5 blocks back, it's completely flooded. Elsewhere on the island, though, it's looking very good. We're during low tide right now, but this afternoon, when high tide picks back up again, we do plan on that water to start rushing in once again. But it is not the safest place down here at the southernmost point in Key West. The winds have been steady. The rain hasn't been too much of a problem. But after talking to a lot of locals, they said after living through Georgia and Wilma, this one could have been a lot worse. Hurricane Ike created quite the show this morning. The first sign of daybreak brought locals out for a closer look. It may be a little too close.
What do you think about that? Well, I think you got to be an idiot to be down here, to be honest with you. I didn't expect the waves to be this high.
This is what we mean when we talk about storm surge. Water splashing over that seawall and then racing into the streets. The street that we're on is probably about a foot deep, but if you look all the way down up to about 7 to 10 blocks, flooded streets here at the southernmost point in Key West. The water continued to rise, and Ike wasn't letting up. Wind and rain pounded Key West.
As soon as the wind stops blowing, we're going to start getting ready to clean.
At first glance, the island seemed to have weathered the storm well.
This is my neighbor.
Locals grateful it wasn't worse.
We didn't get anything here, and we didn't get anything here. So I'm very thankful to God we didn't get the big stuff.
The only thing big about Ike and Key West was the southernmost point, a sight to see whether you wanted to or not. Your dog's all wet now.
Oh, poor Gucci.
The only cleanup Andrew and his dog Gucci will be doing is drying off, and so will the rest of Key West, as a second storm in less than a month was nothing more than a close call.
But I'm very thankful. You don't know how thankful. This one, we escaped.
And we are back out here live. You can see the waves still crashing over that seawall, pouring the water still into the streets. Not as flooded as it was earlier. That man right there just getting splashed. People have been sitting here. It's almost been a tourist attraction down here at the southernmost point. But officials are encouraging people to stay indoors. They say it's not safe. Don't get on the roads because you don't know how high the water is. Also, because of the wind, down power lines are possible. So it's just not safe. There's no word yet on when people can return to Key West. They say just stay away for now until things improve. They will let you know when it is safe to return. Also, tourists are encouraged to stay away as well, possibly returning by Friday, even sooner. Most of the city still has power. We haven't seen any power outages, and we really haven't heard of much damage at all. We are live in Key West for now, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Jeff Burnside. He is in Isla Mirada. And Jeff, looking at the radar earlier today, it seems like you guys got a little bit more rain than we did in Key West.
Well, I'm surprised to hear that. Yes, for time.
Jennifer Gray is in Key West this afternoon.
She looks like she's getting blown around by the wind just a bit. Talk to us about the conditions down there at this hour, Jen.
Hey guys, we're live in Key West in the wind. We just had some really strong gusts down here, probably the strongest all day. The rain is finally coming down again. Rain really hasn't been a problem. Wind has been somewhat of a problem. The biggest problem today has been the storm surge. And if you look out there, you can see the rough seas. People have been coming out here all morning long, taking pictures and sitting by the seawall getting splashed. Sometimes the water splashes as high as that house right there. And with tides running a little bit above normal, you can see how much of a problem it is. This morning during high tide, right where I'm standing, was under about a foot of water, but now since it's low tide, most of the water has receded, and we are expecting another high tide again later this evening, and so the water could rise once again. This is really the only trouble spot in the entire city, and after talking to a lot of residents, they say after living through George and Wilma, they are glad that this storm was not any worse. Hurricane Ike created quite the show this morning. The first sign of daybreak brought locals out for a closer look. It may be a little too close.
What do you think about that? Well, I think you got to be an idiot to be down here, to be honest with you. I didn't expect the waves to be this high.
This is what we mean when we talk about storm surge. Water splashing over that seawall and then racing into the streets. The street that we're on is probably about a foot deep, but if you look all the way down up to about 7 to 10 blocks, flooded streets here at the southernmost point in Key West. The water continued to rise and Ike wasn't letting up. Wind and rain pounded Key West.
As soon as the wind stops blowing, we're going to start getting ready to clean.
At first glance, the island seemed to have weathered the storm well.
This is my neighbor.
Locals grateful it wasn't worse. Only the southernmost point saw high water. The rest of the city relatively dry. Barely any debris, and the lights stayed on.
We didn't get anything here, and we didn't get anything here. So I'm very thankful to God we didn't get the big stuff.
The only thing big about Ike and Key West was the southernmost point, a sight to see whether you wanted to or not. Your dog's all wet now.
Oh, fuck Gucci.
The only cleanup Andrew and his dog Gucci will be doing is drying off, and so will the rest of Key West, as a second storm in less than a month was nothing more than a close call.
But I'm very thankful. You don't know how thankful. This one, we escaped.
And we are back out here live. If you look at the end of the street, you can see roadblocks have been put up just as of noon. The police came out and put those up. Cars are still getting past, though, but they're encouraging people to stay inside their homes. It's not safe to come outside. They say high water in some places, not safe to drive in, but you can see people still driving anyway. And they say that with the wind, there's still a possibility down power lines. And they just say to stay indoors until you get the all clear. We're still getting some of these squalls, still getting some very gusty winds. And of course, we're still getting the storm surge and could get another dose of that storm surge later on this evening. As far as the people are concerned, evacuations, they say don't come back until they tell you to do so. Also, the tourists that left, they say you stay away as well. They'll let you know when it's safe to come back into the city. They want to assess all the damage if there is any, but frankly, we haven't seen much at all. And they say hopefully by Friday or Saturday, those tourists will be able to come back in, if not sooner. We are live in Key West. Jennifer Gray, NBC6.
You saw us live in Key West, and Jen, you had some incredible video down there, and most of it's from the waves crashing over the wall, right?
Guys, I can't really hear you that well, but I can tell you that the winds are picking up really strong. The wind hasn't really been a problem up until now, and within the past hour or so, really getting the strongest winds that we felt all day. Like Hank said a moment ago, this has been a relatively dry storm, not much rain at all. Doesn't look that way from where I'm standing, but that's because the biggest problem with this storm has been the storm surge. And if you can look right off the southernmost point, the tide this morning during high tide, those waves were crashing against the seawall, splashing water up level with that house right there, and so up to about 2 or 3 stories high, and you can see every now and then crashing over the wall. We're at low tide right now, and if you can see the water not very high right there. This morning, though, it was about a foot deep all over this area, and now it has receded. High tide will come again around 8 o'clock this evening, and so the water could once again rise, but officials are saying this storm is not over yet. In fact, the winds are just now starting to pick up, so as the storm heads to the west, we'll continue to get off and on rain, we'll continue to get the wind. The tornado threat will also continue to be a problem here. As far as the people are concerned, they say stay inside your homes. It's not safe with the wind, down power lines can happen, and also the high water. You really don't know how deep it is when you're driving. They suggest just stay indoors until they say it's okay to come out. And also the tourists, they say it's a good idea to stay away from Key West until they let you know it is safe to return, hopefully Friday, but maybe a little sooner. But in the meantime, they say just stay inside where it's safe and try not to come outside until the water recedes here at the southernmost point. The rest of the island, though, seems to be pretty dry. That is the latest from Key West. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Gray. We'll be right back after the break.
Gray live now in Key West with more. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Bob, and you're right, that is the message. They do want folks to come back to the Keys. Residents today, tourists tomorrow. The businesses will be slowly pulling down their shutters later this morning, but they'll have to wait till the sun comes up because, as you can see, no power here on Duval Street. One small business down there using a generator to light their outside marquee, but it is dark all here in Key West. Most of the hotels on Duval are without power this morning. In fact, about 25,000 customers were estimated to have lost power during the storm, only for about 20 minutes or so. And then throughout the overnight hours into this morning, sporadic power outages all across the island. They do expect that to continue throughout the rest of the morning. It's very breezy down here, and I suspect that's the reason the power keeps going out. Rain hasn't really been an issue. We did have quite a bit of rain last night, but up until then, throughout the day yesterday, less than an inch of rain, but we have had those gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour. As far as the people are concerned, they estimate about 25,000 people left the island, 15,000 of those being tourists, only 10,000 being residents, and that's only about 15% of the population here in Key West, and government officials aren't very happy with the evacuation.
Just think if that hurricane came this way. Just think what would have happened. Take a look at television. Take a look at what's happening in Cuba. Take a look at what's happening in Haiti. You know, I believe in being safe instead of sorry. Do we like to see the people? We cannot judge which way a hurricane is coming, as everyone has seen. Nobody expected a hurricane. Everybody expected a turn. We were expecting a Cat 4 hurricane over a 7-mile bridge. Do you know what that would have meant for the Keys? We would have some serious problems.
And Bob and Pam, you know, they asked all of these people to leave. Only 15% did, but the good news is this storm left Key West with barely a scratch, minimal damage across the entire island. In fact, most of the Keys left untouched by Ike. Just a little bit of damage, debris, and a few flooded roadways. Now, the airport should be open today at noon. County offices and schools will be closed once again today, but will be expected to open on Thursday. And like I said, residents will be welcome back today, and tourists on Thursday. So by this weekend, Key West should be fully functioning, and hopefully the power will turn back on in the next couple of hours. This has been the longest outage all morning long. Normally it only lasts about 15 or 20 minutes, but they do encourage residents that if you are without power to let officials know, and so they can get that back on as soon as possible. We are live in Key West. Jennifer Gray today in South Florida.
Hi for us in Key West this morning with more there. Jen, is the power still out where you are?
Oh, Pam, just in the past literally 45 seconds, the power has come back on. You can see businesses lit up again, street lamps back on, street lights back on. And if you pan down Fleming about, you can show down that street the lights are back on as well. We're on Duval right now, and the power was out for a couple of hours. They expect only about 25,000 customers to have lost power during the storm, and that was only for about 20 minutes or so. And you can see we're still getting those powerful gusts out here every now and then. So the storm is definitely not over yet. It has been a relatively fairly dry storm, but during the overnight we started to get a few more showers as well. So as these gusty winds continue, we could expect to see a few more of those power outages throughout the rest of the morning. But folks will be heading back into the city later on this morning. They'll be deboarding their shops, taking those shutters down, getting a little bit back to normal. They will be happy to see that there is minimal damage here in the lower Keys. It looks like just a little bit of minor flooding. That was mainly at the southernmost point, but otherwise minimal damage. They expect about 25,000 people left, 15,000 of those being tourists, only about 15% of those actually being residents. So they weren't very happy with the evacuation turnout, especially if the storm was a lot worse than it was. But as far as the businesses are concerned, they will be very happy to get those back up and running since they lost about $3 million per day.
Just think if that hurricane came this way. Just think what would have happened. Take a look at television. Take a look at what's happening in Cuba. Take a look at what's happening in Haiti. You know, I believe in being safe instead of sorry. Do we like to see the people? We cannot judge which way a hurricane is coming, as everyone has seen. Nobody expected a hurricane. Everybody expected a turn. We were expecting a Cat 4 hurricane over a 7-mile bridge. You know what that would have meant for the Keys? We would have some serious problems.
And luckily they didn't have those problems, the worst being just minimal damage, and like we said in the past couple of hours, a little bit of a power outage. Now the county offices and schools will be closed once again for today. They do expect the airport to reopen at noon, and they're looking forward to those tourists coming back this weekend. Second storm in less than a month to force those tourists out for an already season that was hurting them just a little bit in tourism dollars. That is the latest from Key West. Jennifer Gray today in South Florida.
He joins us live now from Key West with more.
Good morning, Bob. Yeah, people will start taking these boards down later this morning, getting a little bit back to normal in Key West, but it really wasn't bad at all. They saw minimal damage. We are still getting very gusty winds, though. Ryan is right. Possible tropical storm force winds still in the Keys for the next couple of hours, at least through the morning. And we did get quite a bit of rain overnight, but as far as the damage is concerned, none really whatsoever. Maybe a little bit of flooding, and that's about it. They expected about 25,000 people left, 10,000 of those being residents. That's only about 15% of the population, and they wish that it would have been more because, as you remember, as this storm was threatening the Keys, it was a Category 4, and most people did not leave, and so that worries some of the government officials. They also say that about 25,000 people went without power during the overnight hours. In fact, we had a power outage earlier this morning, but it only lasted a couple of hours and is back on. So could expect a few more sporadic power outages in the next couple of hours, but things definitely getting back to normal. 2 close calls for the Keys in less than a month this storm season, and they are hoping that this will be the last.
Just think if that hurricane came this way. Just think what would have happened. Take a look at television. Take a look at what's happening in Cuba. Take a look at what's happening in Haiti. You know, I believe in being safe instead of sorry. Do we like to see the people? We cannot judge which way a hurricane is coming, as everyone has seen. Nobody expected a hurricane. Everybody expected a turn. We were expecting a Cat 4 hurricane over a 7-mile bridge. You know what that would have meant for the Keys? We would have some serious problems.
And we're back out here live, and just in the past 20 seconds, you can see power down Duval once again going out. So do expect in the next couple of hours power going in and out. That's just going to happen. Very, very breezy winds. Every time we get one of those really strong gusts, it seems like the power goes out temporarily. So as folks wake up and try to get their things back together, get the shutters off, they may have to rely on the daylight throughout the rest of the morning hours. That is the latest from Key West. Jennifer Gray today in South Florida.
And you can get an update about the Key West right now and join meteorologist Jennifer Gray. Hey, Jen, we understand that we're close to the officials giving the all clear for residents to come back. Is that true?
That's right, Bob. They say that residents can come back today. Tourists, they want to wait till tomorrow. As you can see, people are starting to take down shutters. They want to give the businesses just a chance to start to get a little bit back to normal, get themselves together again before they invite the tourists back. They're also doing some minor cleanup earlier this morning. We actually still had those tropical storm force wind gusts earlier this morning, caused a few sporadic power outages, but things are looking much better. Aside from a sort of dreary day, I think Hurricane Ike left Key West with barely a scratch. 3 days ago, this was the scene. US 1 and cars heading north, escaping Hurricane Ike, who at the time was a Category 4.
It's too big and too close. too close for comfort, you know.
Judy Kelly and her 8 animals will be heading back from Jacksonville, as will the rest of the Keys residents. As Ike flirted with South Florida, but leaves with barely a scratch.
I'm very thankful. You don't know how thankful. This one, we escaped.
Minimal damage with minor flooding was all that was found. It was a second storm in less than a month to threaten the Keys, forcing businesses to shut down again, costing the Keys economy $3 million a day.
The majority of the businesses did close, but they will be up and running, we hope, by tomorrow and be prepared for business, which we desperately need in these tough times.
Only 16% of the residents evacuated during a mandatory evacuation, and it's a number Monroe County Mayor Mario DeGennaro says should have been much higher.
Just think if that hurricane came this way. Just think what would have happened. Take a look at television. Take a look at what's happening in Cuba. Take a look at what's happening in Haiti. You know, I believe in being safe instead of sorry. Do we like to see the people? We cannot judge which way a hurricane is coming, as everyone has seen. Nobody expected a hurricane. Everybody expected a turn. We were expecting a Cat 4 hurricane over a 7-mile bridge. You know what that would have meant for the Keys? We would have some serious problems.
But the focus today will be getting back to normal again, in hopes the 2008 storm season leaves the Keys alone. And I think folks down in the Keys are happy that it was just minimal damage. You can see people getting back to normal, taking down those boards and putting their businesses back together. And of course, it looks like Ike is not finished yet. It will be entering the Gulf of Mexico and could be headed right for the Texas coastline. And that's where NBC's Jay Gray is standing by in Corpus Christi. Good morning, Jay.